Right, well, we're going to get started. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We're going to be talking about GLP-1s today. We're really excited about this. Thanks for joining, and this will be recorded and on our YouTube as well. But thank you. So today we're going to be going over just a little introduction as well as about myself and Dr. Anderson. You're going to understand and see the Revive team as well as understanding GLP-1 are both our GLP-1 and GIP-1 supplements, as well as we're going to have question and answers at the end, and then we'll be releasing some special offers to you guys. So this beautiful young lady next to me is Dr. Aubrey Anderson. She's given us her time today, so thank you so much for being here. We're going to go over all the questions that you guys have. She is a naturopathic doctor at iThrive. She's been practicing for over 6 years. She's a gut microbiome expert, but she can elaborate a little bit more on, her career. So thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. I've been working in metabolism and endocrinology, mostly patients focusing on things like weight loss for about 6 years now. I am an expert in the gut microbiome and essentially how the microbes in our gut interplay with our hormones and things like weight loss and metabolism. I'm so excited to be here and talk to you all about GLP-1 drugs.
And then, hey, that's me. I'm Julie Norton, our VP at Revive. I'm going to age myself. I've been in the industry for over 20 years, aesthetics specifically in 11. I was a licensed cosmetologist, did hair. I like to say that I have a hairstylist every morning. And yes, I would say I'm definitely an aesthetics expert. I've done pretty much everything under the sun, all the services, been doing them for years, love it. And something I've always kind of said to patients when they ask me, like, what should I do? Which service should I start with? I'm like, just do it all. Do everything, but look like you do nothing. I would say our biggest celebrity right now is probably Lindsay Lohan, that we just don't know what she's done. And she's gatekeeping from all of us, but we know that she's been doing something and she looks amazing, but she looks very natural. So a little bit about us here at Revive Med Spa. We've actually been around since 2006. We're #1 provider for Botox, Juvederm, filler in general. Also Cool Sculpting. We're #1 in California for Morpheus, and we offer a lot of different medical grade skincare. And we have 5 locations here in San Diego, 1 in Laguna Niguel, which is our Orange County location, 2 in LA, and then 3 in Northern California. This is our medical team. So Dr. Vishal Verma has actually been here from day one, so since 2006. He's really curated all our amazing treatments and our devices. He handpicked them. He really believes in, our care here as well as our multimodality treatments. Earlier this year, or last year, Dr. Leaf Rogers and Dr. Naud joined our team, and we can say that we really are in great care with experts in the field. And iThrive. So this is our essential partnership that we have with iThrive. So we're going to be offering iThrive services at Revive. We're just going to be offering the GLP-1 2 medications as well as the B12 injections. But iThrive also has their own clinics. They have 3 in Mission Valley, 3 clinics in total, Mission Valley, Encinitas, and Scottsdale, where they offer, a range of different services, including their weight loss injections, hormone therapy, anti-aging therapy, and nutrient injections, and they're located both California and Arizona. So yay, now to the meat and potatoes. So what we're all here for and what we're learning about today. So semaglutide and tirzepatide, I'm going to let Dr. Anderson take it away.
So GLP-1 agonists, this is the class of drugs that both semaglutide and tirzepatide fall under. Some brand names you may recognize would be things like Ozempic and Wegovy, which are the brand or trade names for semaglutide. The brand or trade name for Mounjaro would be tirzepatide would be the brand, the drug name for the brand Mounjaro. These drugs are very similar in the way that they work. We'll talk about some of the differences between them, but essentially they're enhancing your blood sugar control by stimulating the release of insulin. They slow down our gastric digestion, so they make you feel full longer, which translates to eating less calories over time. They also shut down your body's production of blood sugar in the liver. And so by reducing blood sugar overall, they're lowering inflammation, and can be helpful for things like longevity and vitality.
Amazing. And I'm sure all of you are tuning in to figure out, am I a good candidate? What is a good candidate? Dr. Anderson, can you go over a little bit about what makes a great candidate?
Absolutely. So safety is one of the most important things when assessing good candidacy for these drugs. A body mass index over 20, that's the minimum that we require to make sure that people are using these drugs safely. Another really important piece of this is to use this medication in conjunction with healthy diet and lifestyle choices. So engaging in regular exercise and eating a diet that's rich in colorful fruits and vegetables and lean proteins. Other requirements that are safety requirements would be not currently pregnant or breastfeeding, and patients who have a history of severe gastrointestinal conditions should chat with their doctor about their individual conditions so we can determine if they're a good candidate.
Wonderful. I know we have questions on side effects as well. We're going to get into, what the minor side effects are. But first, our first up injection is going to be the semaglutide. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Happy to. So semaglutide, otherwise known as Ozempic or Wegovy, if you're looking at the brand names, is a GLP-1 agonist. So that's glucagon-like peptide agonist. This is a copycat of a hormone your body naturally makes after we eat things like fiber. This hormone, when it's released, helps to stimulate insulin secretion, so it helps to lower blood sugar. It also shuts down the production of sugar from your liver itself, and delays gastric emptying, which makes you feel fuller longer and suppresses appetite. This medication can support weight loss of about 15% of your entire body mass over the course of about a year. It's very easy to administer. 4 injections per month. Those can be done in clinic or people can do them as self-injections. And like all medications for weight loss, both the semaglutide and tirzepatide work best if you combine them with healthy diet and regular exercise.
So, diet and exercise is one that kind of reaches out to me that this is not some miracle something. There is work that we have to do to stay healthy. And so the other option would be the tirzepatide. Can you tell us a little bit about that one?
Absolutely. So tirzepatide is similar to semaglutide in that it does have GLP-1 hormone mimic as part of it. The additional tool in the toolbox with tirzepatide is called GIP, or gastric inhibitory polypeptide. This is a hormone that's naturally released alongside the GLP-1 after we eat, and this causes enhanced blood sugar control by enhancing even more of our insulin secretion. And the GIP, in addition, can promote even more weight loss. They act as complementary hormones to each other. So those patients saw even more weight loss than the semaglutide patients. Similarly, it's also administered as a once-a-week injection. And some patients on tirzepatide report slightly milder gastrointestinal side effects than semaglutide, but both drugs help patients achieve really significant weight loss over the course of a year. You can talk with your provider about your personal story to decide which of these drugs is best for you.
Awesome. Thank you for telling us about both of them. Now, I know a lot of you are probably wondering, like, what are the biggest differences? How would a provider know, or how would I know which one to do? So here are a few of the differences between both tirzepatide and semaglutide, and I'll let Dr. Anderson explain.
So the semaglutide, as we said before, is a pure GLP-1 hormone agonist. It helped with the insulin secretion, so reducing your overall blood sugar. Both of the drugs reduce things like cravings and can enhance your body's overall ability to burn through calories. They both slow down gastric emptying, so you will feel full longer and be full a little faster. Patients even notice an improvement in things like sleep and energy on these medications and find it easier to exercise as they start to lose the weight. Tirzepatide, because it has the dual action of GLP-1 plus the GIP hormone, gives you a little bit more of a complementary weight loss by increasing that insulin secretion even further. And some patients find that the tirzepatide has slightly milder side effects than the semaglutide.
And when we talk about side effects, I know there's a question in there. What are some of the typical side effects?
The most common side effects of both of these medications would be gastrointestinal side effects, so things like nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, and constipation. Those tend to be relatively mild, and as patients use these medications, they become milder over time.
And is there anything that you guys prescribe or we prescribe to help patients through some of those side effects?
Absolutely. We have tons of tools in our toolbox to help mitigate these side effects. Part of it is just simple things like eating protein-rich meal before you do your injection to make sure that you don't have low blood sugar, staying well hydrated. We also have a number of supplements and nutrients that can help support keeping your digestion regular. And we even have anti-nausea medications if they're necessary to help people be more comfortable on this medication.
Awesome. And then a little bit about what to expect, not only from taking both of the medications, but in your experience. So we do ask that you come in for your consultation. There is a pre-screening once you call to book either at iThrive or Revive. We ask you a series of questions to make sure that this is a good option for you, that you are a candidate for the treatment. And then at that time of booking, they'll schedule about a 30-minute appointment. They'll send you some paperwork for you to do, some consent forms, and then at your actual scheduled first appointment, you do get your injection. And then I'll let Dr. Anderson take away for what the blood work looks like.
Absolutely. And so to make sure that everyone is being very safe and closely monitored on this medication, we do start out with initial blood work. We're going to look at things like kidney and liver function, take really close look at things like fasting blood sugar and HbA1c, which is your average blood sugar over a 3-month period. We'll also check in on things like cholesterol, which tends to improve significantly on this medication, and even check in on a few hormones like your thyroid hormone to make sure that there's no other contributing factors that need to be addressed that might be leading to the weight gain. Our blood work is repeated every 6 months because we want to make sure we're closely monitoring our patients, and people tend to see improvements in their blood work in areas like blood sugar and cholesterol right away within that first 6-month check-in.
Mhm.
Patients will also receive a personalized weight loss program. So we'll discuss how to eat on these medications, the amount of exercise that it's appropriate, and how much water you should be drinking to make sure that you are using these medications safely. And then patients will either come in for weekly injections or take home their 4 injections for the month and do self-injections at home. We also ask patients to return to clinic every month so we can do a weigh-in, check in, and make sure that we're closely monitoring for any sort of side effects that that patient might be experiencing and make sure that they're achieving their weight loss goals safely.
Love it. And also with the blood work, we had questions on if you have current blood work, it's within 90 days. So if you have blood work with your provider, there are specific blood screenings that we need. Do you know what those are exactly?
We do. So we need a CBC or a complete blood count, a CMP, called a comprehensive metabolic panel that'll include liver and kidney function. That'll also have your fasting blood glucose included in there as well. We'd also like to see a lipid panel, so that's your cholesterol panel. And then we'll also look at your HbA1c, which is your average sugar over 3 months, and a TSH to make sure that poor thyroid function is not contributing to your weight gain.
Wonderful. And with blood work, you did mention how patients over time will start to see improvement on some of their blood. So you mentioned a lot of cholesterol and the sugar intake and metabolism. Can you kind of explain or expand a little bit on that?
Absolutely. So these medications work by shutting down some of the sugar production within your liver. And so your body actually stops storing as much cholesterol, fat, sugar in the liver itself. It's being used off label right now to improve things like fatty liver disease. We also see significant improvements in things like patients' fasting blood sugar and their HbA1c, which gives us an idea of what their blood sugar is like over a 3-month period.
Awesome. So I mean, for me, I've always known being in the beauty industry is knowing that sugar and alcohol is always really bad for you, right? And it's an ager because we naturally glycate as we get older. So would it be kind of safe to say that either of these drugs can help with anti-aging?
Absolutely. These drugs, imagine, will become the future of anti-aging. By lowering that sugar level, you are lowering inflammation in the body, and that can have significant downstream effects, especially over time when we're looking at health and longevity.
That's awesome. So just an additional added bonus. And Yes, someone said something about the B12 shots helping with the program. So we do offer the B12 shots. It does help for like more of the lethargic or energy levels, right?
Yeah, it's a fantastic metabolism booster, and so many of us are deficient in B12 and don't actually know it. It not only boosts metabolism, some people also say that it helps them a little bit with some of the nausea and some of the
Hmm.
gastrointestinal side effects as well.
Wonderful. So it's also why we added in that iThrive services at Revive. Um, the supplements, that's a great question. So I know because it helps you feel full longer and it can help kind of slow down your ability to break down food. What are some good supplements that patients should be taking with these kinds of drugs?
So I'd say the most common supplements that we prescribe would be things like digestive enzymes that will help kind of ease some of that gastric upset. We also prescribe things like magnesium to keep patients having regular bowel movements. We want you to be detoxifying and letting go of all of the toxins that were packaged away in those fat cells for all this time. I'd say those are probably the most common ones we prescribe, but depending on the individual patient, we may look at some of your labs and health status, and you may need some additional support like B vitamins, like the B12.
Mhm.
Those can also be really helpful for patients. A fiber supplement might also be something that they benefit from depending on their diet.
Awesome. And I've heard this phrase before, but something that, Revive Services can help our patients with, but Ozempic face. What is Ozempic face? What does that mean? How do we prevent it? Does everybody get it? All the above.
Absolutely. Ozempic face is a growing problem. Typically, patients who end up with the Ozempic face are patients who have been using the medication at a dose that is too high. So they're pushing their weight loss too quickly, and their body depletes the fat pads and some of the muscle in their face. So this can lead to depletion of the fat pad of the temporal muscle, which can lead to sort of a more of a skull-like shape of the head, as well as depleting some of the fat pads that are holding up our cheeks. And so patients can see some cheek fall, which elongates the face and sometimes can make the face look older.
Okay, well, note to self is also be in proper care, right? So a lot of the people that also get Ozempic face may not be getting prescribed the correct dosing because it's making them maybe just not eat, is what that sounds like.
Exactly. So patients on too high of a dose of this medication, if they're not getting in good nutrition, or if we force the hormones to be too high,
Mhm.
patients are going to see accelerated fat loss, and that fat loss will be, coming from places in the body that we don't necessarily want to see it. This is why it's so important to be working with the doctor to make sure you're doing medically supervised weight loss that is right and based on your individual body and your health needs.
Mhm. So don't worry if that does happen or as if that has happened to you, Revive can help you with all of that. So we have device treatments as well as rejuvenative treatments like Sculptura and Renuva. So we'll be able to take care of you. So here are some great before and after photos. I'll let Dr. Anderson go over those.
So this patient used semaglutide. Her starting weight at 220. Obviously, she was overweight, and this is, putting her in a BMI that is far into the obesity category. Over the course of 11 months, she was able to lose, on average, about 5.8 pounds per month. So at the end of that 11 months, her weight was down to a much healthier 156. And you can see from the before and after photos that she achieved very significant weight loss and was really successful on this medication.
And with her weight loss, like 64 pounds in 11 months, so averaging about 5.8 pounds a month, would you say that's a nice, healthy weight loss?
I would say that's a perfect rate of weight loss. What we're looking to achieve for safe medical weight loss is somewhere between 1 to 2 pounds of weight loss per week,
Mhm.
which translates to about 4 to 8 pounds per month. That's sort of the safe range. When we start pushing beyond that 8 pounds per month, that's when patients are in danger of getting the fat pads of their face and some of their muscle depleted. And so this patient did it exactly right. 5.8 pounds is a perfect way to lose weight, and it will
Wonderful.
be sustainable and safe.
Wonderful. Great question as far as the price. The price does not include the blood work. The blood work is $33 and some change for everything that we need. Sometimes you do need additional blood
Mhm.
work, and what would sometimes those situations be?
So sometimes patients need additional blood work. Things that we might look for would be things like hormonal imbalances. We might be looking at things like estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. We do have comprehensive male and female metabolic panels that look at things like vitamin deficiencies, things like cortisol. And so depending on what you've already had done in the past or what you might be working on
Mhm.
currently with your healthcare, you may want to include additional labs so we can get an even clearer picture of your overall health.
Mhm. Great. And does the pricing change based on dosing? No. iThrive keeps it consistent, so it's really up to whatever you need. And we don't change the price based on your dosage. Another great question was about maintenance. So once you've reached your goals, what does maintenance look like?
So depending on, where you are in your weight loss journey, if you've reached the goal of your weight and you want to be on maintenance, we have two different tiers. One of them is a 1.25 milligrams, which is about halfway to the max dose of semaglutide, for example. And then we have some patients who are able to sustain their weight loss over time at 0.5 milligrams, which is essentially at like a starter dose of the medication. So you can work with your provider to figure out what is the best dose for you to maintain your weight loss and protect your investment.
Okay, perfect. Any other questions?
Right? Are we missing any?
They did ask about the shortage list. So we are still offering both semaglutide and tirzepatide. I know things are always constantly changing and things may change, but we have enough supply for over at least a year, so we're going to be great.
Our medications are compounded in a facility that is all of the suppliers are FDA. They're FDA cleared. They're on the supply list, the MDS list for the FDA's approval. It is a sterile compounding facility that's located in San Diego. So that means that we can protect our supply and have complete control over the medication from start to finish. So we know exactly where it came from and how it's being made.
Wonderful. And another great question, will the doctor provider help you decide which one is better for you? And I guess, yeah, who would be a better option for semaglutide? What would that look like as far as how you prescribe their first one?
Absolutely. So usually when we are looking at a patient and trying to decide which medication would be best for them, we'll quantify about how much weight loss they're expected to need. Looking at things like their blood sugar regulation is also really important. If they have severe dysglycemia or blood sugar imbalance, we might choose tirzepatide over semaglutide because it has that
Mm,
enhanced insulin release. And so patients with really significant amount of weight loss that they're trying to achieve with blood sugar dysregulation sometimes will end up on the semaglutide. Also, we have patients who may try one medication, and just like most hormones, our bodies are also unique in the way that we process and respond to these medications, that we may try one and then switch to the other to look for either a better side effects profile or achieve better weight loss. That's part of the beauty of coming here is you get to have an individualized plan with
mhm.
a provider so we can figure out what is the best match for your body.
And that monthly check-in is really key, especially at the beginning stages, right, where you're trying to figure out your body and all the adjustments. The lab work, we actually request it through Quest. And once you come in for your first appointment, the provider will then request it through Quest Labs, and then you can go to any Quest. We usually recommend that you get it within the 3 weeks after your first injection, only because you will not get administered treatment at the second month if we don't have current lab work. So it's really important for, the level of care through iThrive is making sure that we know that you're in good standings and in good health. Is One other question was, is this a forever drug? Like, does somebody have to be on it forever?
So, from a safety perspective, people who have diabetes will be on this drug for life. So, it is safe to use for life. Many of my patients do what we call graduate. And when they get to their goal weight, they hopefully use this medication as a bridge to healthier lifestyle choices. So, they're eating a healthier diet. They've gotten into an excellent exercise routine. And now they're able to just maintain their weight loss through their diet and lifestyle. That's another reason that it's so good to work with a provider is to figure out, do you need a maintenance plan or are you able to just maintain this weight loss naturally, which many of my patients are, I'm happy to say.
Wonderful. So now that we've talked about all the additional benefits to this GLP-1s in general, I'm sure there's a lot of patients out there that their BMI is not below a 20 and still want the benefits of the anti-aging and maybe just healthier blood work. things like that. What would we say? What would iThrive say to somebody that, is either on the cusp or is below?
So typically the BMI of 20 or above is a requirement for most patients. If you are an individual that has other health things going on, for example, like the blood sugar dysregulation, it would be a good idea to come in and work with a provider so we can do a full assessment to decide if you're still safe to use these medications. We just don't want patients to end up with the Ozempic face. And
Yeah.
so, come in and make sure that we can match you with the drug that's correct for you at a dose that's safe.
Absolutely. Um, how do you determine the eating plan? Is it individualized?
It is individualized. So if you are a vegan or a vegetarian, for example, the proteins that you'll be focusing on will be different than our more carnivorous patients. But there a lot of the eating and diet and lifestyle things are pretty general for most people. So foods to avoid when you're on these medications would be things like oily or fatty foods. These medications naturally reduce your cravings for things like sugar. They'll be quieting that food chatter. So you'll spend less time with the refrigerator door open, less time snacking. All other secondary benefits that patients are reporting is a decrease in their cravings for things like alcohol, which also cuts out tons of inflammation and sort of empty calories that most of us don't truly need. And so, increasing your fiber content, not only are these medications released when we feed our gut microbiome fiber, but that fiber is really important for our detoxification processes and keeping our gastrointestinal system very healthy. And of course, skin health.
hmm Which is number one, right? If you start at iThrive, do you have to stay there? Can you start with Revive? Can you stay with Revive? Yeah, absolutely. So you could either one. There's just some like paperwork situations that we have to just fulfill and make sure that we clear up with both iThrive and Revive. But absolutely. So if you move, you're in Mission Valley and you've been treating in Mission Valley iThrive and you move to Laguna Niguel and OC, absolutely you can start getting treatment at the other clinic. If you also are currently on a GLP-1 medication at another practice, what would that look like as far as what we would need for them to come over?
Absolutely. We have tons of patients who either can't get it covered through their insurance, so their doctor has actually recommended that they come to our office so that they can get this medication at an affordable price. I also have patients who sometimes lose their insurance coverage, something happens at work, for example. And so they're able to transition. We'll just transition you to the equivalent dose. Similarly, if you were on one medication before, you were already taking semaglutide and you want to transition over to tirzepatide,
hmm
we just put you on the equivalent dose.
hmm And so I know that our pricing is very competitive. So we've already had a lot of interest from, patients moving over, and it's very simple because you already know, or whoever is getting treated already knows most of everything. So it's an easy switch for us as well. How soon can you book your appointment? Well, you could book it today and potentially even get in for treatment. So yeah, you give us a call. And then does our program support microdosing?
Well, there's no limit to the dose that patients are on. There's no requirement. We don't try to push you up to a max dose by keeping the pricing the same for no matter what dose they're on. There's really no motivation for patients to dose higher or lower than what is perfectly matched for them.
Mm-hmm.
Microdosing or some of our lower levels of our maintenance program could be considered microdosing because they are sort of like a starting dose, but oftentimes people find that that's enough to keep those sugar cravings at bay.
Okay, awesome. And I know you're supposed to do it like once a week, you said,
Mhm.
so every week. What if someone is gonna be out of town and they can either come in like at day 5 or they would come in at like day 10? Could we do both, or would you recommend one or the other, like waiting or coming in sooner?
So there's a little bit of wiggle room in your injection day. Let's say you forgot, you missed a dose, you were traveling or something like that. We recommend just injecting, as soon as you remember. If it's
hmm
been more than 4 days since you were due for your injection and you're going to stay on the same schedule, we typically recommend just go ahead and skip that dose. If you're going to stay on Monday, stay on Monday.
Okay,
Otherwise, if you do that injection, that now becomes your day one injection. And then so
got it.
you'll switch to Thursdays or whatever day that is. If it becomes longer than that, let's say we get to a place where, maybe you've been off the medication for a couple weeks, maybe you
hmm
wanted to take a holiday for a surgery or leaving town or something like that, that's absolutely fine. We just reduce your next dose just slightly to mitigate any side effects, and then we'll get you right back up to where you were so you don't lose a lot of progress.
Okay, wonderful. We always want to know the how to. So a patient's asking, How does the medication work to reduce our sugar cravings? I have sugar cravings in the evenings. Does it help with that? Okay, we all do.
Absolutely.
Okay. You're not
Yes.
alone. Okay.
We all have sugar cravings in the evenings. Absolutely. So by increasing the insulin that is produced from the pancreas, that kills sort of those sugar cravings and that sugar chatter that so many of us get at nighttime after we've had something to eat. Maybe we're watching something on television,
Mhm.
and catching up with our Netflix. And so having this medication on board can really cut that sort of sugar chatter that we often experience at nighttime. I have many patients who tell me that their, regular snacking routine that they would do on the couch in the evening, now they're just watching the movie and they're having a glass of tea or water, and
So
the
no wine
snacks
and
are
no
not out
sugar.
there.
It's a great success. Okay. Yeah, and if I'm traveling, can I get my supply ahead of time so I can stay on track? Well, yeah, as long as you're not traveling more than 4 weeks, right? Then
Yeah,
technically.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, and lots of patients travel with this medication. Domestic travel is very, very easy. If you're leaving the country, I highly recommend reaching out to your airline, or the customs department to make sure that you have everything that you need. We often, for a patient who's traveling, will supply them with a paper copy of their prescription, a letter for travel for medical necessity if needed. So it kind of depends on what country you're going to internationally. Domestically, people often just put it in their carry-on bag and they show off their prescription if asked at TSA. And I haven't had any patients who have had any travel issues at all with these medications.
And I know typically it's supposed to be refrigerated. So is that a problem with traveling as well?
Our medication is shelf stable up to a week.
Okay.
And so, like most medications and drugs or even food in our refrigerator, it's good to keep things in like a cool, dry place or even chilled. That helps prevent things like bacteria from growing and it keeps the medication from breaking down. But since they are shelf stable for up to a week,
Hmm.
taking a plane trip across the country is no problem. And you don't even necessarily need an ice pack when you travel.
Perfect. Is this offered at all of our locations? Yes, it is. All 11 of them. Is there initial price to see the doctor? Well, when you actually call to do your booking, we do take payment at time of booking, and that's why we do the pre-screening. We answer all your questions. If you do feel like you would like to speak to somebody, I know iThrive does offer like a 10-minute consultation just to talk to a provider if you're not wanting to come in for an actual consultation and potentially get started on the injection right away. I'm in NorCal, Walnut Creek is better. Then I can go to local Revive Center. Yeah, perfect. Um, have you seen patients wean off completely and maintain their weight loss? Yeah, you were just mentioning that you've
Yeah.
seen a lot
I
of
have
successful.
I have a lot of patients who are able to graduate. The most important thing is while you're using this medication, you're using it as a bridge to a healthier lifestyle. And so incorporating regular exercise, eating a diet that's rich in fruits, vegetables, and lean protein, those lifestyle habits are what will sustain you after you discontinue the medication and you've lost the weight you were hoping to lose.
I don't think just like anything else, once you start noticing less cravings for bad food, you start in turn feeling better. So then now you know what foods can do to you. So when you get off, you're like, no, I can't eat these things because this is what I'm going to feel. I'm going to feel, crappy after where when I'm eating lean meats and veggies and staying healthy and being active, like hopefully all those habits are put in place, right?
Absolutely. If you get your basal metabolic rate up by increasing your muscle mass, you will naturally be burning more calories at rest than you were when when that area was filled with fat instead. And so,
Mhm.
as patients are building up their muscle mass and reducing their overall adipose tissue in their body,
Mhm.
they are in better positions to maintain that weight loss over time. They're just burning more calories at rest than they were before.
Mhm. And so for those patients asking about self-administering the medication like at home, um, how are they drawing it up themselves? Like how do you like I would assume you kind of coach them through it because most
Absolutely.
people are, unless they're diabetic, right? They're not used to doing this on a weekly basis. Like what would that conversation look like?
Absolutely. So patients can come in, we can do a demonstration for them in office. We can also do this over telemedicine if they live far away. The medication itself is just administered in a very, very small insulin. It's a diabetic needle, so it's very, very small. The volume of medication is also pretty small. And I think most patients have a little bit of anxiety the
Mhm.
first time they're going to do it if they've never done any sort of self-injection, which is natural. But all of my patients after they've, kind of had their lesson and we've gone through it, all tell me, wow, that was a lot easier than I thought it was. And
Mhm.
they feel really confident when they leave. We have some patients who prefer to come in for a weekly check-in. That's also an option, but definitely not a requirement. And the vast majority of patients, after they've had their coaching lesson,
Yeah,
feel really comfortable and are happy to just go home and, do it on
do
their
it.
own
Yeah.
time in their own space.
Yeah, we know it's hard to be anywhere once a month, let alone once a week. So yeah, I would say taking it home, we probably encourage that for your time. But you absolutely have the option to come in every week and have a provider inject you. Let's see here. Can you do hard workouts on these drugs? For instance, boot camps, hit, etc.
So you can do your strenuous sort of exercise routines. Something that's really important to remember is you just really want to be monitoring to make sure you're really well hydrated when you go into any of those exercise classes or boot camps, and making sure that you're being cognizant of the nutritional content of the food that you've been eating. Because you're
Mhm.
on an appetite suppressant, you won't be getting those food cues as often. So you want to make sure that the foods that you're eating are quality foods that have a decent amount of protein to sustain your blood sugar through those exercise activities.
Yeah, good point. So if you're not eating and maybe not staying hydrated too, doing those classes might be a little risky, but just being mindful of your intake. I've also heard that it's good to incorporate like electrolytes in your water. And
Absolutely.
okay, so a digestive enzyme, electrolytes, and then you said fiber and things depending. Okay.
Fiber, sometimes we bring magnesium on board if they feel like their digestion has slowed down. We really want everyone to be having regular bowel movements because that's how our body detoxifies. And so, as we're burning through our fat cells that we've been storing these toxins in,
Hmm.
we really want to make sure that patients are going every single day and that they're getting enough fiber on board. So, if you can't do it necessarily through your diet or you need a little bit of extra support, a scoop of fiber in your morning smoothie can be really, really helpful.
Wonderful. And is tirzepatide mixed with anything?
The tirzepatide is just pure tirzepatide. So we don't compound it with things like B12. I know that there are some other companies out there that have their medications sort of like branding mixed with other things, but it is just pure tirzepatide or pure semaglutide, depending on which medication you're on.
Wonderful. And then Ellie was asking about the initial blood work. I know you kind of went over it before with like hormones and stuff, but maybe we could just review again what that first initial blood work tells us and doesn't include hormone levels.
Yeah, so the hormone level that is included in your blood work would be things like looking at your thyroid function. So we do look at that because thyroid's very often, if it's low functioning, can contribute to weight gain.
Hmm.
We also are looking at things like your fasting blood glucose and your kidney and liver function on that metabolic panel. We're going to look on your CBC just to make sure you don't have things like anemia or any signs of infections from a safety perspective.
Hmm.
We really want to make sure that we're doing our patients a good service by making sure that it's safe for them to use these medications. And then we'll look at things like a cholesterol panel. These
Hmm.
medications can improve cardiovascular wellness significantly. And so we just really want to make sure that we're monitoring our patients and documenting their improvement over time.
Wonderful. Uh, when you initially start, you suggest just one shot, no additional shots, meaning B12, like with their first injection, maybe is the question.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So most people, start out with, one injection per week of the semaglutide or their
Hmm.
tirzepatide. If they want to add on B12, it's safe to use that in that very same visit, or some people want to space it out. Maybe they don't want to do two injections in the same day.
Hmm.
But very safe to mix the two of them. And that additional support can sometimes really help with energy, sort of boosting metabolism.
Wonderful. My question was answered about taking home. Are you taking home pre-filled syringes? No, at Revive, we are giving out the vials for the patients. So they'll coach you on right how to administer and I guess pool.
Mhm, exactly. And I see in the question is about they are constituted. So you don't have to do any reconstitution at home. It'll just be simply drawing the medication up out of the vial and self-injecting.
Uh, Tanya's mentioning that she read that you can't take birth control while on these drugs. Is that true?
That is not true. You definitely can take birth control on these medications, and we encourage patients to be on birth control on these medications. I think you might remember in the beginning of our slides that we talked about not currently pregnant or breastfeeding. These medications are not safe for patients who are pregnant because we don't have studies. It's unethical
Mhm.
to experiment on pregnant
Right.
women and babies. And so we do like patients to take a break of about 4 to 6 weeks before trying to achieve pregnancy.
Mhm.
But we do encourage patients who don't want to become pregnant to definitely be on birth control on these medications. We've also had many patients, not just in our own clinic, but they're around the world that this medication actually helped regulate their menstrual cycles in a way
Wow.
that never had happened before. And so we've
Awesome.
actually had quite a few happy accidents, and many of those babies are already born. They're absolutely fine. If you do fall pregnant on this medication, just go ahead and pause. Don't inject your next dose and just
Mhm.
give us a call. You won't be the first or the last.
Awesome. And then, oh, it sounds like it could might increase, this could or might increase energy. Is it a concern that it might make one lethargic? And I would assume everybody's different too. And then diet probably has a lot to do with it.
You're 100% right. So everyone is unique. They're all individually folded little snowflakes. And so everyone will respond to these medications differently. Most of the time, when people are feeling tired or lethargic on these medications, it's often because they're not actually getting enough calories or the
Mhm.
foods that they're choosing are not nutritionally dense. So we want to be really mindful of our proteins, making sure we're getting enough vitamins and minerals in, staying
Mhm.
hydrated, like you said, on electrolytes, so that we're giving our body what it needs to sustain us throughout the day.
Yeah, if you are not drinking water and you're not eating, I would assume you'd be pretty lethargic.
Exactly.
Yeah, wonderful. All right. Any other last minute questions? Thanks, Amy. Thanks, Tanya. We hope to see you guys soon. Just know your Radiance membership will also get you discounts not only at iThrive, but on all other services here at Revive. These are all of our socials. So we have Instagram, TikTok, Yelp, YouTube. This will be posted on YouTube later, so share with your friends, and we hope to see you soon. Thank you, everybody.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Great questions.
Thank you, Dr. Anderson.
It's my pleasure. And thanks for having me.